In the previous section, I hope you understood everything about live captions and how the licensing differ from Copilot to Teams Premium. And in this part, Mark is going to help us understand the advanced protection features of Teams Premium. He's going to touch base on sensitivity label. He's going to walk you through the steps what you can perform in your admin portal as well. This particular part is very useful for Teams admin who is trying to learn how can you apply these features and what are the different features available for admins to enable for Teams Premium. Let's go and learn that.
We're going to shift gears quickly and chat about some of the advanced protection capabilities that we've got inside of Teams. Uh, I find this to be a really useful article. It's called Configure Teams Meetings with 3 Tiers of Protection. This breaks down a really um, topical conversation for customers. At least a lot of the customers that I work with, this is a huge priority for many, if not all of them. But this article talks to the concept that we have often we'll have 3 different types of meetings. We'll have, what do we want to have for your everyday regular Teams meeting? What settings do we want to apply for those meetings that may be a little bit more sensitive? And then what do we want to do for those meetings that are extra sensitive or highly sensitive? And we kind of break down a bit of advice here about some of the controls that you have available. And some of our recommendations. You can take these and obviously do what you want with them, but this is kind of how we see it. But you can see, baseline, we might say, we want to allow camera, we want to allow mic. We don't want to apply a watermark to everyone's video feed. So, however, in a sensitive or a highly sensitive discussion, we might want to turn some of these features on. So when we start to look at some features that may be new to many of you, we've got watermarking. So watermarking applies a watermark across any content or video feeds that you've got on screen. So what that's intended to do is help deter data leakage. So on my video feed inside of a Teams meeting, I'll have my email address plastered all over that screen. So if somebody was sharing a product demonstration, some prototype hardware, or something like that, if I was to take a screenshot and then post that to Twitter or X, it would have my email address all across it, watermarked. So people would be able to attribute where that leak came from and
Yeah.
know it was me that did it.
That's a really good point, Mark. One additional question is it can I apply this meeting, or like is it like once you apply it, it's gonna apply to all the sessions or all the meetings I'm gonna go for? Like for
Yeah, so
example,
this,
when I go into a customer meeting, I just want that, but not on an internal call.
yeah, absolutely. So this is a per meeting. So all
All
of
right.
these settings that you see here
Yeah.
are a um, per meeting setting. So that's a great question, and I probably should have covered that earlier. But effectively, what we're trying to do here is all of these settings are a part of what we have as our meeting options. So when you schedule a Teams meeting,
Yeah.
um, you go into your calendar, hit new meeting. You're presented with a meeting options dialog, and I might just switch to that sharing experience quickly, and I'll show you what that looks like just for
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
clarity. What you're seeing here is a pretty empty Teams client. This is a tenant that I use for demo. But when I'm talking about meeting options, I'm talking about when I come here and I say I want a new meeting. I can add my title, um, but here on the right hand side, I've got this options dialog box. When I click the options dialog box, I get a bunch of settings that allow me to customize all sorts of things um, inside of this individual meeting. So you'll see here I've got end-to-end encryption. I've got some watermark controls that I can apply for this individual meeting, and I can choose who can present, who can record, who can transcribe. All of those features that I was just clicking through are all available to me as an individual to customize every time I schedule a meeting. But often when I'm talking to organizations, they want the ability to take this out of the hands of the user. Um,
Mm,
so the user doesn't have to make specific decisions every time they're
mm,
creating a meeting. Um, so uh, what sensitivity labeling and some of that advanced protection capability that I was walking through allows us to define very clearly based on sensitivity what settings are applied. Um, I'm going to show a bit of an end-to-end scenario here. This is a diagram that I pulled together that helps me communicate to organizations how this can help um, from a sensitive meeting perspective. I'm going to start on the left-hand side here, um, and we've got a meeting organizer who schedules a Teams meeting. They either select a meeting template or apply a sensitivity label. That meeting then becomes highly sensitive. That link is sent via email to the attendees that were listed in the to or in the to field, and we can select. We want to say anybody who was invited can bypass the lobby. Um, that's great. Fairly straightforward, fairly typical of a Teams meeting, how you would kind of invite and control access. But what happens, for example, if we've got a bad guy down here on the left hand side, um, or even an insider who is trying to leak um, the join coordinates for a specific meeting? We've got the ability to block that meeting invite from being forwarded via a DLP policy. So let's say I receive an invite to a meeting that's discussing a product release. DLP policies can prevent me from forwarding that on to a member of the press, for example. Um, but I don't think that necessarily goes far enough because that just stops us from being able to send the email or forward the email. But what if I took a photo of the join coordinates of the Teams meeting and leak those via other means? Um, it is a risk. So what we do in this instance, and there's some changes coming in future, but we effectively just block that user at the lobby.
mm,
When we're talking to customers and organizations about how to secure meetings, it's a bit of a change in adoption effort around, if somebody appears in your lobby and they weren't invited to the meeting, you either need to authenticate them, ask them who they are, or just
mm,
flat out deny them from entering.
mm,
Um, so once we have that meeting stood up and all in progress, all of those controls that I was talking through earlier about, watermarks, maybe we're going to prevent chat. There's a whole raft of things we can do, um, as I've shown you, to protect those highly sensitive meetings that your organization might have. So when we think about applying protection to specific meetings, we are talking about, again, sensitive, highly sensitive meetings. So what we can do is dictate when a user creates a meeting, we can ask them to apply a specific sensitivity label, and I'll show you what that looks like in the admin portal in a minute. But here you can see just our recommendation as to what you might do. So applying a watermark, end-to-end encryption, you might want to turn that on for highly sensitive or highly sensitive meetings where you're presenting. You also may want to restrict when chat is on. So in a highly sensitive presentation, you might not want people chatting in the background. You can also do things like prevent copying content out of chat, full stop. So if
mm,
you've got people might be typing sensitive content into the chat during a meeting like this, you might want to have that capability turned off and will prevent the client from uh, prevent users from copying text out of that chat dialog box. Um, We also have the concept, and I'm aware that I'm introducing a few concepts here, but they're tied together. So we have this article that talks about how you should configure, or how we suggest you configure, depending on the sensitive nature of individual meetings. And then when we're talking through sensitivity labels and um, meeting templates. Meeting templates are another capability I'll walk through in a minute. I'll give you a demo of what that looks like. But this is a great reference point when starting to talk about this capability. So what I'll do, I'll jump to the admin portal quickly, and I'll show you what this looks like.
Can we do
Um,
all of these settings in a single admin portal, or do we have to jump between security portal and Teams admin portal to do these?
good, yeah, good question. So we have to jump between both the compliance admin center here
Yeah,
on the left hand side
yeah,
and the Teams admin center.
okay,
So what I'll what I'll show you here. Um, Here's a view of the Teams admin center.
yeah,
Um, and when we're looking at meetings, we have the concept of meeting templates.
yeah,
Um, Meeting templates, and I'll show you what the creation experience looks like. We've got the ability to change some of these settings. So when a user, um, uh, I mean, we might call this, I'm just going to call this template test, just for the purposes of this. But uh, we can change um, uh, what those meeting options are when a user selects that template. So again, I might want to turn on um, people can people dialing in can bypass the lobby. Maybe that's something I want to turn on. Maybe I want to say I want to enable watermark for screen share and watermark for video, um, and I can save that. And this is it's going to use my admin profile here. Um, it's going to be a pretty empty Teams client, but effectively where that template appears is here. So you can see here we've got this templates option. So when a
yep,
user comes into their Teams calendar, hits this drop down button,
yep,
you'll get a list of templates that are applicable to your organization. So here's that template test, and that actually came through really quickly, almost
yeah,
instantly. So when I hit that template, um, you'll see here some options may be locked, right? So if we look
yep,
at some of the settings that we changed, people dialing in can bypass the lobby is checked, and here's the watermark and shared content. Sorry, the watermark for shared content and for the video feed. So again, it's just taking that decision making out of the user's hands. So
right,
when they know they want a highly sensitive meeting, they can come up
yep,
there, um, come down, and say, maybe
select the
that's highly
template.
sensitive. Yeah, yep. So
Yep,
again, just trying to take that control back in favor of the admin slightly,
yep.
uh, and not have to make users make a decision intentionally.
But as a user, can I create a template for my own settings as well? No.
No, you can't.
Okay.
It's admin
Admin driven.
controlled,
Okay.
yeah, admin driven control. Um, so these are the meeting templates, and the way that we kind of suggest that you implement sensitivity labeling is by using in combination meeting templates and sensitivity labels.
Yep.
So there are some features that are available to configure as a template setting. We've got this well documented. I'll see if I can jump to the article in a minute. But um, from a meeting templates perspective, here are the settings we can configure in meeting templates. And then when we come back to our admin center and I jump to the compliance portal, I'll jump there from scratch, and I'll show you what it looks like from a sensitivity label perspective. This is our compliance portal. And here we have an information protection dialog. And if you've deployed sensitivity labels at your organization, you may have some pre-existing labels. And these labels appear in content. For example, if you're working in Office, and you want to apply a specific label to a piece of content, maybe you want maybe you need to mark it as personal, public, general, confidential, or highly confidential. Here are, let me just reload this page. That's where, this is where you will configure those particular labels. So you'll see here in scope for these kind of 5 labels we have for files and email. So again, in Outlook, you might have a requirement to select a sensitivity label, whether you want it to be consumed by the public or whether it's kind of organizational only content, and then have specific controls applied based on the label. So we're doing that as well for meetings here. We can apply those same protections that we're just looking at in meeting options by having a user select a specific label. You can see here in this particular policy under meetings, we've got a bunch of controls defined specifically for meetings.